For anyone who I don't know, hi, thank you for coming to my talk. For those who know me, I'm sorry, I keep talking. So normally I talk about international SEO, e-commerce SEO, sometimes about AI as well, but I thought it was too packed today with AI, so I gave it a try to the sustainable strategy. And I was telling a client a few weeks ago, well, they was asking me, what are you talking about? And I was a sustainable strategy for SEO, and they asked me, why? Does my website even have a carbon footprint? And I was like, yes, that's a bit awkward. So I thought, while I was preparing my presentation, to put a little bit of information about the energy that the internet spends and how your website plays a role into it. So, did you know that the internet actually is responsible for 3.7 of the global emissions worldwide? Actually, when you look at it, it looks like a very small number, but when you put it into perspective, it's exactly the same carbon footprint that the aviation industry, which is quite a lot. In fact, the energy that you use in the internet could power the whole of the UK, and that is public and private. You know how many people there are in the UK? A lot. So it is put in perspective quite a lot of energy. In fact, since ChatGPT came into place, this make it even worse. ChatGPT only in January used as much energy as 175,000 people, which is a lot in just 1 month. But also when it was being trained, it released 3.5, I'm not very good with numbers, tons of carbon emissions, which is exactly the same that 123 cars during a whole year. It's a lot. So before I go into how can you make your website more sustainable, I just wanted to give quickly just some advice about using ChatGPT. I don't know if Kat is the head of data, Hallam is in the room, but as Kat put it, please don't use ChatGPT to do things that you can do with a calculator. Don't use a Ferrari to go to Lidl. Use a Ferrari to go to Waitrose, but not to Lidl. And please do not submit silly prompts. Every single time that you submit a silly prompt, a tree die, and that is really sad. So, going into where the energy is consuming the internet and focusing on the internet, there are 4 specific points that every page, when it's scrolled, spends energy on. And that is the end devices, so the phone that you use, the computer, the TV that you put your internet on. Then once the crawler is going through your page, you need to transfer the data. So it's crawling your site, it's transferring the data, it's rendering, it's understanding what it needs to show. Then the data needs to be saved. So it's saved in a data center, which also, they are massive, in case you don't know, and they spend quite a lot of energy. And finally, search engines, right? Search engines, every single time, they're constantly crawling every single page in the internet. They also constantly doing algorithms, and those algorithms take time. They need to train the system. It's a lot of energy, and they save all of this in more data centers. So imagine, this is for 1 page. For the people in the public here that work with me in-house, they know that there are pages, there are websites that have 2 million index pages. 2 million. I'm putting my mic close so you realize how much energy that means. And this is 1 website. So imagine all the websites that are out there. Just do the math, lots of dead trees. So why should we care? Or why should you care? Obviously, we live in this earth, right? It's on fire. We don't want it to be on fire, so let's care about that. Secondly, it's because actually sustainable SEO is good for your website. It's good to have less pages that use less. It's good to get the crawlers to spend wisely their crawl budget in your sites and make the right pages rank. And finally, believe it or not, sustainability is becoming one of the main concerns of users. So in a recent survey, 50% of the people said that sustainability is in the top 5 concerns they have, and 85% use sustainability as a choice when they decide to use a certain website. So definitely, it's something that you need to consider. So, to the stuff. How can we make our website sustainable? So I split the talk into 3 main points. One being the technical points, so all the technical stuff that you can consider. Another one, content and the classic SEO hacks, because actually, as I said, SEO, it is good for SEO, so you need to consider SEO in your hacks. And finally, data analysis. Data analysis is going to be really important when you decide which pages you want to use. So going into the technical part, the most basic one, use a green hosting. I mean, green hostings are not that well known, but when you choose a good partner, they tend to use energy that is from solar energy. They also, every single time that is used, they plant trees, they do quite a lot of energy match. There are a lot of things that come along using green hostings. Definitely an easy one to try to choose. Web performance. So images are no, there are two, I think, megabytes that every single time a website crawls is spent on that single website. Half of it is images. So if you look at this, the average page weight by content type is images, and the distribution requires are images. So I am not exaggerating when I said that when you do your web performance analysis, you need to focus on optimizing images. How do you optimize images? So you can minimize the visuals, you can compress the content, you can put lazy load. So actually, if your user is not going down to the page, the image doesn't show. And you can reduce the HTTP requests. There are quite a lot of things that you can do to make your websites less heavy. And also, obviously, that is better for Google. Another thing that you can use is CDNs and web cache. So it's content distribution networks. That basically means that the servers are saved in places that are close to you. So whenever you do a request, let's say from Germany, it doesn't have to go to the US, send the information to the US and send it back. You actually can get it from a place that's close to you. So that means that the time that all the information is to travel, and all the time spending saving the information on another side of the country is saved. And it's not only faster for your user, so it can engage better with your website, it's also the energy that is used is reduced, as well as the cache. So the cache, it's a bit annoying, you know, when you're checking your website and you're like, I didn't search for this, why it's showing? Actually, you did. And it's very good because it saves the time that the crawler needs to recall again and get all the information. So it saves energy and it's better for your user because actually you have the data from the user to engage with it. On sites, and here I'm going to show you my drawing skills. Not very good. But when you actually when you optimize your website, it makes easier for the user to find what they're looking for. If it's easier for the user to find what they're looking for at the end, purchase what they're looking for, it makes the time spent on the internet looking for the answer less. Therefore, obviously, it's using less energy. It sounds a bit basic, but you will be surprised at the amount of people that put lots of pages that are random. And actually, I was talking earlier about when I work in-house, something that I discovered, this is a makeup page, and there was a makeup page, different type of makeup, different type of colors, different type of sizes, so the user had to go to, all of those were indexed, all of those were crawled, and the user had to go through 10 stages before even getting to the product. The user ended up going to the competitor, obviously, and the crawler was spending so much time. There was duplicated content, many website SEO issues, but most importantly, lots of time wasted. So make sure that your keywords obviously are in the metas, the site structure it flows, the internal linking are connected between each other, so not only Google, but also the user can go back to the right page. Explore your content, make clusters, make sure that everything makes sense, and the user can go nicely through all the pieces of content. Come back to the product. So, yeah, I mean, why there are no links to the product? The user is coming to buy your product. Put a link there, please. And then finally, purchase. There are so many times that the purchase is so confusing, and you need to go through so many stages. So even UX is good for the time spent. And finally, if you make all this process smooth, your user, more than likely, is going to come back because it remembers the website as a nice website to spend time on. So just don't make it overcomplicated for the user. Don't make it overcomplicated for the crawler. Again, don't kill trees. Finally, overall strategy. So this is my favorite one. This is how I was before I started in SEO, and then this is me going on holidays after being in SEO and understanding what a pain this organization is. Why? Because I was talking about all the different steps earlier that the crawler goes through and gets confused. The user gets through and gets confused. If you are organized, it's way easier for everyone, but also you can actually declutter your content. So I was talking about the 2 million pages that there was when I was working internally, in-house, sorry. There were 300 of those that were Black Friday pages, all of them indexed. Why? I mean, why? But all of those, so many of those were actually cannibalizing with each other. Google didn't know which one to show. So Google was constantly crawling this page one and again and again and again. And this is one of the cases. Also, more often than not, people, when they're creating content, they think, oh, more content, more clicks, more users. No. Most of the time, I mean, your content is limited, right? The long-form content that you can write is quite limited. So make sure that you're writing content that answers the search intent, that actually is not triplicated, I'm not even saying duplicated, triplicated within the content that you have, and that offers all the information that you have at once. So review your content. Review your pages. Do you really need to have 10, I'm gonna say this because it really pisses me off. Recently I was having this conversation, a while ago actually, and someone asked me, how many SEO pages do you want for your website? And I was like, what? What does it even, SEO page, what does it even mean? Pages full of content with the purpose of hoping that at some point someone will get to that page. No, you need to think of the user. You need to use your data to make sure you understand where the user is supposed to be landing and then put it in a strategic way. Don't put SEO pages, that's not a thing. Review your sitemap. Reviewing your sitemap is important because basically you are telling Google which are the pages that you want them to crawl, so want Google to crawl. And you need to put the strategic pages in there. So it saves time on Google trying to figure out which page is the one that you want to rank. If you tell Google, there you go. Remove outdated content. I think recently I read a survey or maybe a case study about IBM, how removing tons of historical content make them rank better. Most of the time, it is a thing, because if if the content is old, no one is looking into it. Remember it. I'm pretty sure that lots of people are talking about it today. It needs to be trusted. It needs to be fresh. It needs to engage. So if it's old and no one is going to that content, why Google should be crawling that content? So make sure that you review it, that you get rid of all the content that is not necessarily, or even merge it. And then strategize with your content creation. As I said, I'm repeating most of the time the same, but make sure that you have a reason to create that page, and the reason is satisfying the user. It's not putting content for the sake of putting content, which is a classic. And in the end, reduce clicks. I was talking earlier about the site structure. If you have 10,000 of steps towards the end, which is buying a product or whatever sort of conversion you do, it's not good for Google because it's going to think that the page is not important. But honestly, the user doesn't want to be spending so much time on it unless it's necessary. So make sure that the pages are important, are right close to the domain or as close as you can. And obviously, the less time that the user is spending on your website, the more time, the less energy that the user is wasting. So those are the main things I will consider. Just to sum up, as I said, so if you put all these things into practice, you improve page speed, which is good for the user, and it spends less energy. You reduce crawl budget wasting. You don't need to go through 205 Black Friday pages. You improve indexability, so the right pages are going to be indexed and they're going to be ranked. You can target content intent, so you make sure by using the right data that you're offering the right content to the user, and it helps user because they're gonna like your website better, and finally, it helps the earth. So, to the client that asked me this question, who is not here, yes, your website emits carbon emission, has carbon emissions, and also you can check it. So there is the original website carbon calculator where you can check the carbon emission of your website, and it gives you quite a lot of recommendations on how to reduce it. And you can also use the Green Web, which again will tell you all the information about your websites, the trees that you can actually plant to reduce it, and it also offers you to plant those trees for you. So that's it for my talk, and thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the ice cream.